You are listening to the Push Media Podcast Network.
This is good shit.
Good afternoon. My name is Colin Coyle, and you're listening to my impression of if I was ever asked to fill in for Terry Gross on NPR. You're listening to Fresh Air. On today's episode, we'll be discussing organic diapers and how they might be useful for your ass. I don't really know. I don't really care. I'm just trying to give Terry Gross a shout out. Because me and Terry back in the day used to kick it. We were actually roommates at Johns Hopkins University back when we were pre-med. All of this has not made sense thus far. It's a very confusing time. And when things are confusing, when chaos is happening every which way you look, every news story seems to be at a crux of just confusion. It seems to be the motif throughout everything. Medically confused as in senility. Some people are just stupid, and it leaves you befuddled as to how people could be that stupid. There's many different types of stupid. There's belligerently dumb. There is pretentiously pompous. There is acrimonious taints. How about that? You like an acrimonious taint? You probably know what a taint is. Probably less of you know what acrimonious means, but I can assure you, a lot of acrimonious taints walking around. So, with confusion and chaos seeming to be the daily theme, it is important, I think, for you to have a few mantras in your head, a few sayings, a few slogans, a few things that you can mentally resort to when you're in a situation where you feel a little confused. There needs to be a strategy in place in your mind for you to handle moments where you just don't know what to do, where everything is overwhelming. What is going to happen? What's Russia going to do? Why don't people know how to drive anymore? What's going on with the mask thing? So when you find yourself in a situation like that, I would like to just offer you my mantra, what I tell myself mentally, what I repeat to myself whenever I'm confused. And that saying is this: Pakistan should not, and Afghanistan should. Do you feel much better? Don't you just feel a wave of relief and anxiety leave your body? Pakistan should not, and Afghanistan should. Feel that. Feel that level of stability. And that motto, that slogan, that mantra has gotten me through many a hard times. Through my political captivity in Tibet this past summer. When my phone broke and I didn't have one for 2 days, I went through struggle recently. And in both situations, I simply told myself, I can overcome, I am equipped, I have the tools. Just remember, Pakistan should not, and Afghanistan should. I don't even think I'm going to explain what that means. You know what that means. That strikes at the very core of your being. That is a genetic memory of sorts. Pakistan should not, and Afghanistan should. One set of footsteps, it's right up there with that. Oh, man. So if you're like, wow, we're almost 5 minutes into this episode, and I still don't know what the fuck Colin is talking about, that might be a new record. So I would like to pat myself on the back. But I am, of course, referencing the video this past Easter. And just a side note, this past Easter was the first time in, I think, like 200 years that both Passover, Ramadan, and Easter, because, you know, Passover and Ramadan are multiple days because most white religions really limit their shit to just one day, which I kind of admire. Like, this ain't a birthday weekend, bitch. You know, we got to grow up at some point anyway. I'm just pointing that out. It's a rare anomaly to have all three of those holidays happen at the same time. And these are the things that I think we should let preoccupy our heads, not some of the other bullshit going on, like what did Mike Tyson do? Why won't people let Elon Musk buy Twitter? Edward Snowden is definitely not a Russian spy. That's bullshit. Those things we should not allow in our mind. Let just, take a moment to appreciate a calendar anomaly. Just be happy with that. Just be amused more easily. It will make your life much more simple. People, I think, are overly stimulated, and it has resulted in people losing touch with common sense as to if I do this, I will have that happen to me. Case in point, the jive turkey who got his ass beat by Mike Tyson on a plane. But I'll talk about that later. But I want to give you the meaning behind the powerful mantra of carefully organized and chosen words that Joe Biden used this Easter egg hunt at the White House to a group of children. And of course, that mantra is Pakistan should not, and Afghanistan should. And if you're like, still, what the fuck is Colin talking about? I'm never going to change. But I'm referring to the Easter egg hunt at the White House because it happens every year. It's a beautiful thing. It's mostly for kids. If you didn't guess that, you are a weirdo. Why would there be an Easter egg hunt for 30 and 40-year-olds who already probably work at the White House, have no problem blowing up a wedding with a drone, and are best buds and go to cookouts with people who work for Halliburton and whatnot? It's obviously for children. It's definitely for kids. And Joe Biden loves kids. He sniffs kids. Everything about kids, he just can't get enough. And he took a moment during the Easter egg hunt when he was going along the fence where all the fans, I guess, I don't even know if that's the right word, just children at the Easter egg hunt at the White House. Just to reiterate and paint you this picture, his audience is no older than 12. These are children. And a video of Joe Biden approaching this group of children saying, Pakistan should not, people should be free, Afghanistan should. Pakistan should not, people should be free, Afghanistan should. That's what he's telling 12-year-olds on Easter who are busy looking for eggs that probably have deadly vaccine candy in them. If you've been following the real news, brother, right on. Build the emails. The wall's taking our job. Fuck, I can't ever stop being a fake Republican person because that personality is just hilarious to me. It always will be. I hope it doesn't offend people, but if it does, it's good. I don't care. That was me just still doing the character. I'm actually a great guy. That's not my opinion. Why bother trying to separate fact from fiction at this point? Because you can't even tell. I watched a video of the president tell children on Easter, Pakistan should not and Afghanistan should, and then a person in an Easter bunny costume showed up and scurried the president away. I'm not making a single word of this up. So to fill that in for you, there's obviously the Easter bunny every year at the White House Easter egg hunt because it's his birthday or whatever. It's to celebrate the birth of the Easter bunny or whatever Mormons believe is the true meaning of Easter. Anyway, so there's always a mascot there, and it's usually just some intern at the White House. Some intern who, because of changes made to the role since Bill Clinton have been in office, no longer have to suck dick. They instead have to dress up like a giant bunny. This is a very prestigious internship. But this year, because we have a president who might have actually literally, truly, scientifically died several years ago, he needs someone around at all times. And that's not a knock. I'm not saying look at the old senile man. We should take him out back and put him out of his misery. No. Old people should be cherished. They are bastions of wisdom and knowledge. And it sounds like I'm being tongue-in-cheek, but I'll get sincere for a second. I was at my grandparents' about a couple days ago, and they were telling me about a time they drove cross-country in the 50s because, they're old as shit. They're about as old as our president. And they were telling me about seeing colored water fountains in person. And I was eating dinner with these people. I was having chicken tenders, talking to people who had seen colored water fountains, colored bathrooms. That's mind-bogglingly insane to me. We're so up in arms about bathroom. We are so much fucking confused as to the bathroom politics of the world today that our biggest argument is we want to let everyone into the bathroom. We want open border bathrooms. That's what we're up in arms about and at each other's necks and dicks at the urinal about. Open air, open border bathrooms. Meanwhile, there's people walking around Earth today still literally who have seen colored-only bathrooms. I say all that to say, I'm not just mocking people for being old. I'm not an ageist. I'm a sexist. There's a difference. I'm really not. I'm a feminist. I'm very pro-feminist. I'm a TERF. What up? One time for the TERF club. Anyway, surf and turf. So old people have a value. There's some knowledge there. You can learn some shit from them. Joe Biden, on the other hand, might be dead. And I mean that. Because this year, there wasn't just an intern in an Easter Bunny costume walking around. There were 2 interns, or maybe one just chief of staff. Maybe it was the joint chiefs of staff in the other fucking Easter Bunny costume, because there needed to be. Because Joe Biden needs a handler at all times in case he suddenly thinks it's 1971, when he was arguing for apartheid. That might have been reckless out of me, and I might even be wrong. But does it matter anymore? The president said nonsense to children on Easter, Ramadan, Passover, and then was swept away by a political bunny. There is a video of this. I don't think David Lynch could make a video that made me feel weirder. The president said to children on Easter, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and then the Easter bunny showed up into the frame and Gong showed him off of the stage like a fucking giant cane. And the bunny really should have done a little more physical acting classes, perhaps some stage fighting or fencing, because the bunny didn't have bunny personality to me. He sure didn't move like a bunny. He didn't hop like a bunny. He wasn't like as spry as your mother. This bunny very clearly was grabbing him by the shoulders and pointing, saying, hey, I know I look like a giant bunny right now, but I'm the Joint Chiefs of Staff. You need to come this way, sir, before you reveal nuclear codes to children and wish them a happy Ramadan. Assalamu alaikum, alhamdulillah. Washanjay kwalu, chindan, wagwan. Big up, real badman ting. That was my Chet Hanks, I guess, right? Bad Boy Summer wasn't even that bad. I'm just saying. It sounded like 8 songs, but it wasn't even that bad. But I digress. So let's talk about Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson, he's kind of one of the most exceptional. Okay, maybe that's not the right word. He is one of the most interesting American stories of all time. It's a crazy thing. The man was like maybe the most feared killer on the planet. Secretly a sweetheart, had a just a hilariously fun ass lisp. Loves Pithith. Had in a show on Adult Swim, was in The Hangover, got shafted out of an appearance in the 3rd Hangover, owned a tiger, beat a rape charge, and is now boxing again in his 60s and smokes more weed than Snoop Dogg. If that's not a fucking Mark Twain to you, I don't know what is. And just to Mike's credit, he never had a friend named Jim. I'm going to keep pointing that out. It's really me just more showing off that I've read some Mark Twain. At the crux of what sounds like I'm on the right side of history on a very specific issue is really just me trying to flex a little, just trying to stunt. A very misguided stunt. And me even being honest and taking you behind the curtain and telling you that is just another weird manipulative stunt for you to think this guy's authentic. Maybe I'm making this all up. Maybe I didn't read Mark Twain. Maybe my real name is Jim. Anyway. So Mike Tyson, like a couple weeks ago, was in the news when he went to a comedy show in Los Angeles, and there was a guy there who was trying to pick a fight with Mike. And I think, based on what I gather, and I'm usually right, I hell of a lot more trust my gut than yours. I read that situation as more like this guy, and we found out later, had just gotten out of prison, probably wasn't, acclimated back to regular society, saw Mike Tyson, and depending on what this guy's crime was, unless he was trans and was charged with vehicular manslaughter, he was probably in jail for a long time. He probably went in when Mike Tyson was at the height of the world. So now all of a sudden he's bumping into him at the ha-ha and no-ho, and he's like, Mike, let's fight, because he's probably a fan. And Mike's like, no, man, I'm not trying to fight no more. That's not what I do no more, man. I used to say I want his heart. I'm gonna eat his children. My style's impetuous, my defense is impregnable. I'm gonna fuck you till you love me, faggot. That's Mike. That's what he said. That's not me. Mike said all those things. He went through all that. And this guy just wouldn't stop. And then all of a sudden, dude pulls a gun because he had just gotten out of prison. This is just how the dude knows to interact. And everyone freaks out, hits the floor, gets under a table, literally pulls a gun at a crowded thing. That's a very big deal. Can't do that. That would freak the average person out. But do you know who that did not faze a little tiny bit? That would be Mike Tyson. He literally said, "You need a hug." Mike Tyson hugged the guy who had just pulled a gun at the Ha Ha Club. And I probably shouldn't use that name because it's a real club. And I don't know if this happened there. But that's irrelevant. Perhaps legally actionable, but not germane to the story right now. Mike Tyson literally in a situation, a live situation with a gun pulled, everyone hitting the deck. Mike just said, "I'm going to hug this man." And he did, put the gun down, situation resolved itself, and then that dude was sent back to jail to rot for the rest of time because no one really wants to take a look at what's going on with privately owned prisons. But anyway, this was just a couple weeks ago. Now, Mike Tyson back in the news because he was on a plane. He was on JetBlue, which shout out JetBlue, by the way. I've flown JetBlue like twice, both times. I had a fine plane ride. It was a good time. I don't know if that's enough for me to really give that strong of an opinion. That's how much I'm fishing for sponsors. JetBlue looking at you. Anyway, so Mike Tyson was on a JetBlue flight, and there was also some TikToker on the flight, some really just caricature of the worst type of Paul brother, the type of kid, if you've never been to Los Angeles, that you would bump into who lives in a Vine house. I don't know. Actually, Vine's not a thing anymore. That's how little I give a shit about videos. I've said this before. Never send me a video. I'll never watch it. It's actually rude to send someone a video. But if I send you one, you better fucking watch it. I want a book report on my desk in the morning. But anyway, there was another kid on the plane, as the same plane as Mike Tyson, who was a TikToker who would make egregious, horrific videos of interrupting restaurants, causing scenes, just the most obnoxious type of human being. A very new type of obnoxious, stereotypical douche that has only emerged since pretty much like Vine and so on. And arguably really more just like 2018 and so on. Really since it was obviously a thing before TikTok, and TikTok is relatively young, like 3 or 4 years old in America, but it pretty much, TikTok is what pushed this fucking douche caricature right into the forefront of the mainstream. So we have TikTok to blame for that personality, is my point. So this kid sees Mike Tyson, and he's getting all up in his face, doing TikTok things like, "Wesson J. Coyle." I just couldn't resist. I couldn't help myself. What can you do? You know, Christoph Waltz or whatever at the end of Django when he shoots Monsieur Candy, he's like, "I couldn't resist." That's how I felt about the opportunity to say the wildly offensive phrase in Mandarin. I'm telling you, just look it up. You owe it to yourself. But anyway, this kid, he gets his phone out, and he's in Mike Tyson's face, and he's like TikToking and like tapping him and touching him, just basically trying to get his ass kicked, if you ask anybody. And Mike Tyson, to his credit, and to be fair, this kid touched him. Like, he put his hands on his shoulder. Like, it wasn't like he threw a punch or anything, but he touched him. And you, just to remind everyone, unfortunately, even Bill fucking Murray, these bitches got Garfield. You can't touch people. You just can't touch people. If you touch people, expect to get touched, especially by Mike Tyson, you stupid fool. So Mike Tyson warned the kid. He's like, "Don't touch me. Get out of my face." Kid persisted because he's just trying to get followers. He's trying to do TikTok ting tong things. That was, I almost feel like I should apologize towards the end of that one, but whatever. And then the kid, he pushed one too many buttons, and Mike Tysoned him in the motherfucking face. And then continued to hit him. Really fucked the kid up and bloodied him. Now, could you argue Mike was in the wrong? Yeah, maybe. He could. Genuinely violence inflicted on others is never good. We're all God's children, you silly mofos. But this guy is Mike Tyson. This kid is the worst type of kid. He is a TikTok person. And honestly, if I really wanted to, I could blame China for this. Because TikTok really accelerated and cemented the personality option of a douchebag from TikTok. That's China to blame. I'm not going to say it again, but you know what I'm thinking. So honestly, it's China's fault. Mike Tyson had to resort to the person he didn't want to be to beat the shit out of this douchebag. Now, Mike Tyson's catching some heat. This kid doesn't know where the rest of his lip is. Mike Tyson's upset because he had to inflict violence on somebody. He doesn't want to do that. He's a gentle soul. He owned a tiger successfully. Do you know how dangerous looking but sensitive inside you must be to successfully own a tiger? You don't. They also hate pepper and love cinnamon. Cinnamon's one of my nicknames for your mom and one of hers for me. Anyway, this kid got his ass beat by Mike Tyson. And if Mike Tyson says, hey, kid, stop doing a thing or I'm going to beat your ass, how much are we supposed to feel bad for the kid? This is common sense. This is what I'm talking about with people losing common sense, get so swept up in relatively new values. There's these new things that people care about, like followers or virality. I can't believe I just said that right without stumbling. These are new things, and these were brought upon by social media, celebrity. You get the point at what I'm getting at there. And you can get so obsessed with it, you could so value these things that maybe there's only a finite amount of things you're supposed to value. Because if you value this new dumb shit, you forget, hey, if I touch someone, that person's going to touch me back and I'm not going to like it. Or, hey, that person is Mike fucking Tyson, the guy known for touching and subsequently killing people. I want his heart, I'm going to eat his children. That's something a man said. Okay? So, how detached are you in reality where you decide to push the bear that is Mike Tyson again? I don't feel bad for the kid. Mike Tyson diffused the live shooter situation with a hug. That's something he's capable of doing. This kid didn't have a gun. He had a fucking what's the fucking Chinese phone company? He had a Huawei phone instead. And that put Mike over the edge, enough to knock him clean the fuck out. So, in defense of America, in the face of Chinese communism, I side with Mike Tyson. And you should too. I think it's your civil duty. That's what I have to say on that matter. In some better news, the weird-faced alien, Elon Musk, his first bid at buying Twitter was shut down, which is good. It's great. And all of a sudden, Jimmy Kimmel, of all fucking people, just an annoying person, someone who hasn't, and I know some people like to say, yo, Jimmy Kimmel used to be funny when he did the Man Show. I never really watched, and I only have an experience of seeing him be someone who looks like someone that would vote for a president based on who doesn't eat gluten. But Jimmy came to the right side of history all of a sudden when he posted a video saying it is inherently dangerous for Elon Musk to control and own Twitter. Now, this is an argument I've made. I've made it much better, and I can assure you it is my own, unlike Jimmy Kimmel's, which is probably largely shaped and developed and crafted by those at Disney and whatnot. So, yeah. But if the words you're saying are right for the time being, I will embrace you on our side until it is time to kill you later. Because, well, there can only be one. But Jimmy ain't wrong. And Elon, he's really trying, and we should be grateful that the first attempt was shut down. You know. By the way, you know someone else on the board at Twitter? Saudi Arabian prince, by the way. And we have a weird relationship with Saudi Arabia where we don't ever want to piss them off, but we never acknowledge we're friends. I don't know why that is, but in this case, I'm glad we have it. I'm willing to look past some of the more not forgivable things that we haven't questioned Saudi Arabia for, like, you know, how did a box cutter hijack 2 planes or put a journalist in a bag in several pieces? But in this instance, at least he put his foot down and said, no, Elon. And Elon, with the long face, was like, shit, I got to come back and try again. So we have a shot. We have an opportunity here to come to our senses. And now that Jimmy Kimmel, of all people, is actually speaking up, I believe we can do it, America. We have Jimmy Kimmel on our side now. We have 400,000 nightly viewers asleep on our side now. So Jimmy Kimmel, welcome to the team. Welcome to the right side of history. It's good to have you. We got to stand up. And I know it's very tempting to say Twitter should become an African-American company. We want more black businesses. And I know you're thinking, what? Elon Musk, African American. You may not like it. He may hate it about himself. He may have come from a family that used to own people or Mars. But we just can't allow Twitter to become an African American business. Wasn't that a crazy sentence? But it's true, because you don't want Elon to own it. You really, really don't. I'm telling you, you don't. Elon has a history of silencing his critics. Did you know that? Did you know the White Knight of South Africaners has a history of taking swift action, swift, legally binding action against his critics who say words he doesn't like? That doesn't sound like someone who believes in free speech to me. It sounds like someone who wants to be in control of speech. And the person who owns Twitter also sounds like somebody who wants to be in control of speech. That's all I'm saying. And that's that on the matter, I guess. What's most confusing I make out of all of this is that there seems to have been this switch where, like, Republicans or conservatives or people you would think don't want government intervention in anything, all of a sudden are like, well, if Twitter wants to buy it, the government should step in and force Twitter to be allowed to sell it. Or, like, basically somehow retardedly backwards, like, calling for regulation in this weird childlike logic that they believe is not regulation. It's like, we got to make the government force this private citizen to do what they want another private citizen to do. That's cronyism. That's like Chinese Communist Party shit. That's like Hong Kong laissez-faireism. And let us not forget, people are locked up on their balconies screaming for help while anti-suicide drones say, go back inside. And this may be worst case scenario, but you got to plan for that. When you call for government regulation in the name of not regulating anything, eventually that leads to all the power collected at the top and robots flying around telling you things aren't really that bad. Go back inside. You can build another iPhone. Don't worry why we're putting nets everywhere. Don't look around at that. Go back inside. Coronavirus is back or whatever. And I have nothing to say on coronavirus. I am indifferent on the matter. Philadelphia, the city I live in, maybe sometimes, I summer here, perhaps, they lifted their mask mandate. Philadelphia was the only major city that brought one back 3 days ago, and it's already done. We already got rid of it. And they announced the mask mandate before Easter, and they said, everyone, we're going to institute this on Monday. We're not going to do it before a holiday weekend. And everyone was like, yeah, that totally makes sense. If there's a threat, it's definitely going to wait until we celebrate our Easter, Passover, Ramadan. Totally checks out. And then it came time for everyone to put the mask on, and everyone was like, no. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, because I'm going to listen to the CDC, you stupid idiots, because I didn't go to pre-med, even though I claimed to have gone to pre-med with Terry Gross back at Johns Hopkins University. If you couldn't tell, I lied about that. I did not. But the mask mandate's gone, so we'll see. It seems like the official policy has shifted towards herd immunity, and let's just fucking roll the dice, which, for better or worse, here we go. But if that's going to be what we're going to do, all of the emergency actions and executive powers bestowed to the White House in the name of COVID, you got to let them go too, bud. You got to remember what year it is, you got to remember what holiday it is, and you got to remember what the fuck you are saying to children. It's a very confusing time. South African Elon Musk from a different planet trying to buy Twitter. Saudi Arabia saying, we can't allow that, we're principled. Mike Tyson forced into a life of violence yet again because of China, in my opinion. It does make sense. When you, chaos. Gas is still above $4 a gallon. That shit is so annoying. So in times of great strife, chaos, be thankful for calendar anomalies where you get little breaks from it and you can celebrate whatever you celebrate. Easter, Passover, Ramadan, maybe a collection of all three, or maybe something made up that Mormons do. And when that's done and the chaos persists and you still find yourself thinking, what? Just remember, find a quiet little place, somewhere you can just gather yourself, your thoughts, and say to yourself, Pakistan should not, and Afghanistan should. Don't you feel much better? This is not good.